WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Hello, welcome to Know Your Rights, which is a program sponsored by Innocence Maintained. Aaron Salter founded Innocence Maintained as a way to help the wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, and returning citizens transition back into society. And they do so by providing tools, resources, and skill building to enable returning citizens to return to the workforce, to live independently, and to contribute to their community. I am Judge Michelle Rick from the Michigan Court of Appeals. I am also an adjunct professor at Detroit Mercy Law School. And I am here today with two students, and we are going to be talking about expungements. As I mentioned, I serve on the Michigan Court of Appeals. I am also a district director of the National Association of Women Judges. At Detroit Mercy Law School, I teach a class that's called Access to Justice. And in addition to the regular coursework, students in my class must perform 30 hours of volunteer work in order to get their grade. Today, I am here in the studio with two stellar students, Amanda and Kelly. They are going to give you legal information about expungements. Afterward, we are then going to hear from Takara Hendley, who is a lawyer that works for the City of Detroit Law Department in the Project Clean Slate program. Attorney Hendley will be joined by a former client of hers who was able to successfully get his expungement or his record cleaned by virtue of an expungement, all with the help of the city and Project Clean Slate. Before we get started and hear from our students, I need to remind you of the legal limitations of today's presentation. The information you are about to hear is not legal advice and may not be considered giving legal advice. Law students can't give legal advice, nor can judges. The information and research by Detroit Mercy Law students is provided for informational purposes only. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get underway. Kelly is going to start us out with some basics on expungements, and then Amanda will take over midway. So, go right ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Judge Rick. My name is Kelly Yankee. I am a third-year law student at Detroit Mercy Law School. Now, I'm first going to start out by explaining what expungements are. Now, this comes from the Michigan State Attorney General website, if you can see on our slide, that Michigan has long provided that those convicted of most criminal offenses in the state of Michigan, other than murder, first-degree criminal sexual assault, and others that we will go over later, can, under certain circumstances, and if certain preconditions are met, have those convictions expunged or set aside. So that way they will not be in the public domain, so employers cannot find them.
And just to be clear, Kelly, that's not to say that courts or police can't see those records.
Exactly.
They're held, but in the secret,
Exactly.
with respect to those entities only.
Exactly. Now, this applies only to the state of Michigan offenses. This does not apply to federal offenses or other state offenses. Next, we're going to go over the history of Michigan expungements. Now, previously, the law was more restrictive regarding the expungements. In the past, the law would only allow one felony and not more than 2 misdemeanors to be expunged. But great news, if you were not eligible in the past, you may be eligible now. But please remember and note that just because you had a prior denial, that does not mean that you will be denied again. Now on to the next slide to explain the new law, the Clean Slate Act. To apply for an expungement, only some misdemeanors and low-level offenses are available to be expunged. The available misdemeanors and low-level felonies are on this slide. Yep, so right here we're going to discuss the new Clean Slate Act. To apply for expungement, the Clean Slate Act is available to the following. Unlimited for crimes up to 90 days maximum or less. Expungement is also available to up to 4 misdemeanors that are 93 days or less for sentencing. Expungement is also available to only 3 felonies, sorry.
And let me, if I may, just
Yes.
offer a clarification. Your bullets were correct, but misdemeanors, the point about 93 days, a 93-day misdemeanor is an offense where one is fingerprinted.
Yes.
And so if you have been fingerprinted and you know that you have not been convicted of a felony, then likely you have been convicted of a misdemeanor. But there are also misdemeanors that do not require fingerprints, and those would be the ones that are 92 or more likely than not 90-day offenses. But a misdemeanor is anything up to incarceration for a year. After a year, then the category would be a felony, correct?
Yes, thank
All
you,
right.
Judge
Yep.
Rick. Now, other applicable offenses under the Clean Slate Act are ones such as the one bad night, certain marijuana offenses, which will be discussed later, OWIs and OUILs, which will also be discussed later, and if the applicant was a victim of the human trafficking during the offense, they could also possibly be available to have the Clean Slate Act. Now, please take note that under the Clean Slate Act, it is not available for serious offenses.
And the law is very specific on serious offenses, and we're not going to go through the entire list, but suffice it to say, a crime involving sexual assault would not be a permissible expungable offense, right?
Correct, Judge.
And additionally, a murder offense would clearly not
Correct,
qualify.
Judge.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Now we're going to discuss the waiting period, which will be on the next slide. The waiting period can be found under Rule MCL 780.621D. Now, you don't have to look up that rule. We're just going to go over it right now. So, the waiting time for filing an application to expunge a felony now is at least 7 years from the latest date of one of the following: the date of sentencing, the completion of probation, discharge from parole, or completion of imprisonment. Now, for misdemeanors, you will have to wait at least 3 years from the latest date for the same: the date of sentencing, the completion of probation, discharge from parole, or completion of any term of imprisonment. Now, if the conviction is for a serious misdemeanor or an assaultive crime, the waiting period for filing an application to expunge a misdemeanor conviction will be at least 5 years from the latest of the events that we just previously discussed. Now on to the next slide. We're going to talk about automatic expungement, but this will not be into effect until April 2023.
At the earliest.
Exactly.
There are no promises.
But you never know with the legislator. So the waiting period for automatic expungements whenever it comes into effect are as follows. For an offense that is 93 days or less, one must wait 7 years after the imposition of a sentence until the automatic expungement will apply. For felonies, one must wait 10 years from the imposition of a sentence or after serving prison or prison, obviously. Please note that not all criminal cases will be automatically expunged. The expungement is unlimited for misdemeanors punishable by 92 days maximum or less. And it applies only to 4 misdemeanors that are punishable by 93 days to 1 year in jail. Again, as Judge Rick has discussed previously, that is where you get fingerprinted.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that there are categories, and Kelly, you've alluded to this, the one bad night, which basically is just what it sounds like. Somebody had a really bad night and did a bunch of bad things. And those offenses that perhaps they've been convicted of may qualify under one bad night, but they would not qualify necessarily under the automatic expungements. And so one thing we want viewers to know, we will be giving some additional resources, but do not lose hope. If you've looked at that last slide and thought, oh my gosh, I have to wait 10 years or I have more than 2 felonies, all is not lost. And we will be providing you with some information about resources so that hopefully you'll be in a better position to understand whether you would qualify under the law or not. But I don't want you to give up hope at any point, but most certainly not because of that last slide.
Exactly. Now, the first step you might ask yourself, I don't exactly know my criminal history. How do I figure that out? We have a solution. You go to iChat. Now, iChat is a shorthand for the Michigan State Police Internet Criminal History Access Tool. This allows someone to access criminal records for an individual for crimes in Michigan only. Now, we're going to go through the next few slides, which is going to show you how you use iChat and how you obtain your record. This slide is you go to the iChat homepage. Now, you can do this by going to apps.michigan.gov, or you can simply Google iChat. You will be brought to this homepage. Now, on this homepage, you will see on the slide, circled and highlighted, it says Get Started. It also may show up as Log In on your screen. You're going to click that. Now, once you do that, you're going to be brought to a second page, which will be on our next slide. Here, agencies and other individuals are able to log in or create an account. You don't have to do that. We are going to log in as a guest user, and that is going to be found on the right side of the web page. Now you're going to click I'm not a robot, and then you're going to accept the terms and conditions. Next, you're going to click the blue box labeled guest login. Now on our next slide, we're going to be brought to the guest login. Here you're going to select your reason for search. Now, I looked through these reasons, and if you think one of them applies to you, you can pick that, but you could select other or prefer not to answer. If you select other, another box will pop up, and that will ask you to type in what that reason is, and you could write expungement. But if you don't want to do any of that, you could just click prefer not to answer. Then you're going to fill in all of your information. Make sure to use your full government name. Before you click submit, you're going to double check all of your information because this information is very specific. Now we're going to go to the next slide. This slide is where it confirms payment for your record. Now your record will probably be about $10, is that correct?
Yes, it's a $10 fee, and yes, you need to pay before they let you know what's on their system.
Yes. Now, as you see on the screen, they accept Discover, MasterCard, and Visa. You're going to click the option that says Pay by Credit Card if it's not already selected, then click that blue box that's labeled Next. Now, we're going to discuss what would happen if, on the next slide, if you got a... Yep, so this is what would happen if something did not come up. Now, this one line we're going to read very carefully. It says, a search of Michigan's criminal history file has not located a criminal record that exactly matches the information that you have provided. What you're going to do is look at that keyword exactly, then double check your information that you inputted. Now, if that information is correct, there could be a couple reasons why your record is not popping up. One reason could be that you just didn't have a conviction in Michigan. That actually is a lot more common than people think. They get the jurisdiction wrong, or the conviction just might not have shown up. I have seen that. Have you seen that before, Judge?
Well, I have, or I have seen situations where people may just not have realized that they had, maybe the crime was really, really old, and maybe they committed it as a juvenile, or an offender who, a person who would qualify as an offender under the Holmes Youthful Trainee Act. And so it is also possible that their matter has already been removed from the public eye. So those could be reasons, most
Exactly.
definitely.
Yes. Now, another reason could be that they might have just inputted your information wrong, but we're going to get to that later. So on the next slide for the iChat is an example of what would happen if information did come up. Now, this is kind of the information that I would read through just to understand what you're about to read. Now, on to the next slide, we're going to discuss the meat of the information. Now, there's the arrest segment, the charge segment, and the judicial segment. The arrest segment is just what you were arrested with. It does not mean there's an automatic conviction for that count. For the charge segment, is just what the prosecutor charged with. Now, the judicial segment is what you're going to pay attention to. That is how the outcome of the case came. Now, you're going to see the DISP. You're going to look for that in the judicial segment, and that's going to say where you pled guilty, which is what the individual did for this segment. Now, the next slide is just another example of the segments, but on this slide, I want to note that your segments may lead on to a second or third page, so pay attention to that for if you do scroll through that. Now, on to the next slide, we're going to discuss what happens if your iChat is wrong. These are just procedures. It is also on the iChat website. There are two paths. One, the wrong person, which means the charges are for the wrong person, which means you did not commit these, someone else did. What you're going to do is go get fingerprinted. You can do this at your local law enforcement agency, or you can do it for free at the local Michigan State Police post. Then you're going to send that in along with the record and a letter asking them to verify that this information is incorrect. Now, if it is the right person, but there's just some inaccurate, incomplete, or out-of-date information, you're going to get your record, and you're going to send that along with the letters asking them to verify this information. Now, with the record, you also want to send a certified copy of the court record. To do that, you go to the court that you were convicted and ask them for a certified copy.
And that is all of the steps that are needed to verify whether I am a person who has convictions that may be expunged.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So we've gotten through that verification process, and now, Amanda, I think you're going to take it from here.
If we move forward a couple of slides, we will discuss how applying works. So applying works by filling out Form MC-227, Application to Set Aside Conviction. This is widely available as a fillable form if you Google Application to Set Aside Conviction, but a way easier way to do that is to actually go to michiganlegalhelp.org. There you'll find a self-help tool where you can take the information from your iChat conviction and actually just plug and play, and it will generate a completed form for you. You don't need to have an attorney to help you with these things, though some individuals may wish to consult with an attorney. But Michigan Legal Help is a wonderful tool that has a variety of different information and forms for just free legal help. Here on the slide you'll see where to click for the expungement self-help tool, which is just the easiest way to complete the form. The next couple of slides are going to show what the application to set aside actually looks like. You'll see that you just fill in your personal information and the information about the conviction. to complete that. It's mostly self-explanatory, and again, this form is widely available online or on Michigan Legal Help.
And actually, if you use Michigan Legal Help, which I strongly, I encourage people to utilize that resource, you aren't going to see that form until you press print. Because instead, Michigan Legal Help is going to ask you very basic questions in hopefully an understandable way so that you answer the question and then it fills in the right form and with the information that you provide. I know lawyers who use Michigan Legal Help.
Yes.
It's funded by the State Bar. All lawyers have to belong to the State Bar. It is a very reliable and very easy website to use.
Yes, so if we move forward a couple of slides to the application instructions, very simply, you will fill out this application and order that certified copy of your conviction from the court where you were convicted. There's usually a small fee for that. You're going to get fingerprinted at a local Michigan State Police post, and you're going to take that fingerprint card with a $50 money order and mail your application to the Michigan State Police. You're also going to make copies of this application because you'll also be mailing it to the prosecutor's office, the attorney general's office, and the court where you were convicted, so they can file that and get you a hearing date. If we move forward a couple of slides, you'll see the costs that you can expect to pay associated with expungement. That includes small fees for ordering a certified copy of your conviction, for the court's filing fees, and for the $50 Michigan State Police fee for running your background.
And when I was a trial court judge before I joined the Court of Appeals in my county, our clerks would typically charge $1 a page for any photocopying out of the official record, the court file. And so ordinarily we would suggest that it would probably run $1 to $2 per page, depending upon the number of convictions for that court that you're seeking to expunge. Everything for one case should be listed out in one judgment of sentence, so it's not like you pay multiple times for multiple convictions if it was all within one case. But it's important to know that if you have convictions from more than one court, that you must go to each court to get a certified copy of your conviction, and it has to be certified. Otherwise, the state police will likely reject it when you provide them with your materials so that they can do the background check. And you don't want to have anyone tell you we've got to start the process over again, or you didn't send in the right information. So that's really, really important.
Exactly, it absolutely is. The next portion is going to be about the new operating while intoxicated expungement law. For the first time in Michigan, we are allowing first-time offenders, those with one and only one OWI or OUIL, commonly known as drunk driving offense, to apply for expungement. And this can absolutely help a lot of people who may have made that one mistake one night and gotten an operating while intoxicated to be able to get that expunged. Next, as Kelly touched on, there is new laws regarding making it much easier to expunge marijuana offenses for use and possession and sale of paraphernalia. There's a separate, very simple form and process to go through for marijuana offenses. And then we want to discuss briefly what to expect at the hearing. You do generally have to go to a hearing for these. You should dress appropriately for court and plan to be there on time. And you might expect that the judge will ask you questions about how you've improved your time since your conviction and improved your community around you. And you might also want to submit letters of support from the community for the court to view, just so they can see how you have changed your life and improved since your time in jail or since your conviction. And then you may also want to fill out a order on your application setting aside the conviction so that if the judge grants it, he or she can sign it and have that sent to state police for processing so they can make your conviction non-public, and at that point your expungement is complete. Lastly, here are some resource links that are very important that give tons of extra information about everything we've touched on today. The MichiganLegalHelp.org website is amazing resources. Clean slate information is found on Safe and Just Michigan, so definitely take a look at these links. And lastly, keep an eye out for upcoming clinics. There are posts on these websites that inform you of clinics in your area where you can go to get help with expungement.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda and Kelly. Well done. Aren't they going to be just phenomenal lawyers? I know that you will do so much on behalf of people who are in need of legal assistance. Don't leave. We have more to come. Specifically, we're going to hear from an attorney with the City Clean Slate Project, and we're also going to hear from a client who will discuss how he found himself navigating the system. So thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. You are watching WHPS 15.2 Detroit and Highland Park, and we'll be back shortly.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
There's a new financial empowerment center located in the Wayne County Treasurer's Office on the 5th floor of 400 Monroe in Detroit.
If you or someone you know needs help with their finances, budgeting, and making monthly payments, the Detroit Financial Empowerment Center can help.
Wayne Metro Community Action Agency has counselors ready to provide free one-on-one counseling to help you address issues related to utility bills, taxes, and other financial matters. We can also help you improve your credit score.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm so glad that you remained with us so that we can explore the the practical side of expungements. As a personal note, I was on the trial court bench for just over 13 years before I moved up to the Michigan Court of Appeals. And as a trial court judge, I loved doing expungements. I felt that they really spoke to humanity and the fact that there is goodness in all, and the fact that the criminal justice system should be restorative. I know that is not always the case, but for myself, it was powerful when people humbly came before me and asked, "Judge, would you please take this off my record?" And they would explain any number of reasons for wanting to do that. Now, recently there was a study in Michigan of Michigan expungements, and remarkably, only just under 7% of 100% of those people who were eligible for an expungement actually went through the process. That always baffled me as a trial court judge, and I didn't understand why. That is until I got off the bench and instead worked with Detroit Mercy Law School, and we started holding some expungement clinics. And then it became very apparent to me. One reason that people were not coming back asking for expungements is because it's so confusing. There are so many things that someone has to do to complete the filing materials for the expungement. So this is something very near and dear to my heart, and I know that it is near and dear to the heart of the city, of the mayor, of the law department, and I am delighted to share with you today and introduce to you Takara Hendley. Ms. Hendley is a lawyer with the city of Detroit, and she works on Project Clean Slate, which is dedicated to assisting people in getting their records cleared. Now, I want to brag a little bit about Takara, if I can, while you're all looking at her on camera. She earned her bachelor's degree from my alma mater, Michigan State University. Go White. Poli-sci pre-law, also something that we share in common. She then went on to become a U of D Detroit Mercy Titan, where she attended law school. While she was there, you were busy, and you are brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
You are. You were the title editor of Law Review, which is like the big publication, the highest, most prestigious thing a law student can do. And you were the vice president of the Black Lawyers or the Black Law Students Association. And you began your legal career, Takara, working as a judicial law clerk in the Third Circuit.
Correct.
And you worked in the civil division for Judge Smith.
Yes.
All right. How long were you with her?
I was with Judge Smith for about a year and a half before I joined a mid-sized law firm in Southfield.
All right. And then you were with the mid-sized law firm and then later went to work as assistant corporation counsel for the city of Detroit?
Correct.
And is that where you found your love for Project Clean Slate?
Yes. So as assistant corp counsel for the city of Detroit, Stephanie LaBelle, who is now our executive director of Project Clean Slate, she needed some help covering hearings, like expungement hearings. And so I was kind of voluntold to assist with those hearings, and I honestly loved it. Absolutely loved it. Most of the hearings I covered were in Third Circuit Court, so that's in Wayne County. And a position opened up with Project Clean Slate, and I jumped on it.
So now you're there 100%?
Yes. So I started off as project manager, and then I moved over, transitioned to staff attorney June of last year.
Okay. And I understand that, excuse me, Antoine Bell, who joins us at the table, you were one of Takara's clients.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. And a little bit about Mr. Bell so that we're all known to our viewing audience. You were a CB builder for the U.S. Navy. What is that?
That's a person that destroy buildings and then rebuild them, build airplane landing strips out of nowhere in nowhere.
And as we were talking before we went on camera, you have been to over 50 countries?
52 to be exact.
52 to be exact,
Yes.
all with your military service.
All with my military service.
Well, we will never forget, we remember, and we thank you for your military service.
Thank you.
How long were you with the Navy?
24 years.
Excellent. That's a full-time job that you retire from, I suppose.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, but you haven't retired because you still do things.
I do.
What do you do?
I actually judge and referee for United States Olympic boxing team, also for the Michigan LBC 19 for the state of Michigan. I also judge for the WBC.
Excellent.
So, and I also do volunteer work for veterans who are trying to file for their disability through VA.
Wonderful. So you are very involved with your community in all respects.
Yes, I try to be.
You are. You're a dad and a husband.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. How many children?
I have 5.
Lovely. What's the age range?
Oh, don't ask me that.
Okay, I won't put you on the spot. I should know better. That's all right.
I'm having a hard time keeping up with my old age.
That's okay. I understand. Yes. But most importantly for our conversation, you're a City of Detroit resident.
Yes, I am.
And that is important, is it not, Takara?
That's very important.
And let's talk about why that's important as it relates to your work.
Yes. So Project Clean Slate is a section of the City of Detroit Law Department where we service current City of Detroit residents, providing them with complete legal services throughout like navigating the expungement process. So our clients, also City of Detroit residents, they complete a form online. It's super easy. You can actually do it from your phone. And then we pull their iChats, we determine their eligibility, and if they're eligible, then we would order their certified court records, as you guys touched on earlier, and we would file their applications for them. So we take care of all of the fees. So that includes the certified court records, that would include the application fee to the state of Michigan, as well as just any other associated fees that come along with the expungement.
So if the local police department charges for fingerprints, you would cover for those fingerprints?
Right. Well, actually, we work really closely with Detroit Police Department, 3rd Precinct. We hold events there on a weekly basis where our clients come in, they sign their application, and then we fingerprint them at no cost.
Excellent. I was kind of doodling on the back of a napkin recently when someone asked me about the costs associated with an expungement, and putting aside a lawyer's fee, which could run a couple $1,000s.
Right.
We know that there's at least the $50 fee for the background check, a $10 fee for the iChat, the fees for the fingerprinting, the certified records, and then of course you got to make copies. And if you don't have a copier at home, you're running.
Yes.
UPS, is that where you go now? UPS?
FedEx.
FedEx. Thank you. You run to FedEx, and they're probably charging a nice chunk of change.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
We've determined that the process is about $100 per client.
That's what my napkin.
Yes.
When I tallied everything up, so you were here when the students were going through kind of the way one would file for an expungement, and would you agree that sometimes that's not an easy or understandable process?
Not at all. Luckily for our clients, they have access to, actual licensed attorneys, and they still have a ton of questions. So when we're talking about iChats, or when we're saying that we have to wait for a letter from the Michigan Attorney General and what that means, down to even understanding what is actually indicated on a certified court record, our clients tend to have like a ton of questions. So for a layperson, I would say it's very difficult.
And I'm curious now, the students also touched upon the expansion in the law,
Yes.
which took place roughly about a year ago that the law changed. And it's changed a couple times since then. But Project Clean Slate was running before the law changed.
It was.
And I'm wondering if you can share with our viewers the number. Have you seen an uptick in numbers?
Oh, sure. So to give you an idea, Project Clean Slate started by Mayor Duggan in 2016. And in 2021, as we know, the expungement law expanded. In 2021, we saw that 11,000 clients apply for Project Clean Slate. And to give you an idea of what that 11,000 means, is that was more than all 4 years prior.
Wow.
So there was definitely an influx of applications, and we're a very small team, but we work really hard. So that's like, to give you an idea of, how many more Detroiters became eligible for expungement with the expansion of the expungement law.
Wonderful. And have you heard stories of people that who maybe had tried to get an expungement on their own, or thought they had to pay an attorney a large amount of money, or any other reasons that maybe they hadn't moved on asking for an expungement until they came to see you?
Sure. I think the biggest barrier or issue that a lot of our clients had was, under the old law, you could only have 1 felony and no more than 2 misdemeanors. And then we know that when the law expanded last year, you can now have up to 3 felonies, albeit with some exceptions, and an unlimited amount of misdemeanors. So just with that, what a lot of people may deem a small change, we were able to see that a lot more of our clients were eligible for expungement.
That's great. Antoine, I wonder if it's okay if we talk about your experience
Sure.
with Clean Slate. When did you become aware of the city's program?
I became aware of it when it first started, and she said 16. I thought it might have been about 2014 when I became aware of it. They were going out to different communities and churches, and I heard about it, but at that time I didn't qualify for it.
So not enough time had passed?
Not enough time had elapsed.
Okay, since your conviction. And so when you ultimately did make your application, I understand that you had gone to the court previously.
Correct.
Because your very well-intending judge suggested that you come back and he'd just take care of you like a year after probation.
He did.
And then lo and behold, apparently, despite his very best intentions, he learned the law did not allow him to do it that way.
That is correct. The law had changed while I was serving my time. And we tried to petition that we was grandfather claused in, and he said, no, you just have to wait for a couple more years.
Okay. So eventually you decide to go to Project Clean Slate and put that ball in motion?
I had reached out to Project Clean Slate, and I was again turned down because I had 2 felonies.
Aha.
And so they kept me in their database. And when the governor, God bless her soul, when she signed the new law, Project Clean Slate reached out to me. I didn't have to reach back out to them. And when they reached out to me, because I was in their database, they did everything. They told me to just start it from my phone.
That is
I didn't even have to
remarkable.
go on a computer. Just start it from my phone.
Okay, so easy enough, and there may be some of us who don't understand, but your phone and what you input on your phone can be very different than like the tablet I have in front of me.
Yes, but with Project Clean Slate, they send everything to your email. So everybody has an email on their phone. So when it came to me, I didn't have to do nothing but read, understand, comprehend what they were saying, and at the end, they asked me to check some boxes and sign. And it was really, really simple.
So I know you were in the room when Kelly and Amanda were showing the screens. You didn't actually have to go and even look at those screens.
No, I did not.
Or figure out.
No, I do not. And I would like to thank my attorney here. I appreciate it so much because I would have been lost.
Yeah. We understand a lot of people feel very lost. So, and the reason that you were intent on getting your convictions set aside was because you encountered what do I want to say?
I hadn't
an issue
at the beginning. I hadn't. It was, everything seemed normal, and I again worked for USA Olympic boxing team, and at the beginning they didn't have a criteria where they did personal background checks, but about a year or so later, they came out with this big background check going on. And when they did, they sent me a letter and said that I was denied until I can prove that my convictions was done. And when that happened, I was able to do it, but it was the first time that I had been denied. And I knew then that, hey, I need to take care of this.
Yeah, I know that schools or any kind of programs that work with youth, that many times there is a background check now that's undertaken, and if you have a felony on your record, you may be asked to step aside until that's cleaned up.
Also, for senior citizens, if you are a senior citizen and you're trying to move into a senior citizen building to compensate your income, senior citizen building now do a background check, and if you have a felony, you cannot move into a senior citizen building.
I assume, Takara, that you've heard stories like this from others.
Yes, actually, it's what we like to call like a collateral consequence of having a conviction. So some of the most common reasons that our clients seek expungement is obviously employment opportunities as well as housing, federal financial aid. We know that depending on the type of felony, you may not be eligible for federal financial aid. And what surprised me was one of the biggest reasons why a lot of parents and even grandparents actually apply for expungement was chaperoning their kids or grandkids' field trips. So they do run background checks if you volunteer your children's school or, to chaperone field trips. It was a hindrance. And so that was to me, it was a big surprise that was one of the main reasons why a lot of people decided that today was the day to really get an expungement.
And I, again, in my experience of doing some expungement work as an advisor to our law school, it amazed me that how many people I came to know who did something stupid, got caught, and just pled straight up without ever asking for a lawyer to, their court-appointed constitutional lawyer. They waive that, they plead to multiple offenses, and then lo and behold, when it comes time to chaperone, they're told, sorry, this happened to you. And I assume you've heard those stories as well, where, people either forget, they put it in the past, they think it was law, and the other thing that struck me was just how genuine people were. I mean, as has been said by people far smarter than me, we should not be judged on the day we do our worst acts.
I agree.
And boy, I think that we could all reach in to our personal background and find things that we did that were
Questionable.
Questionable. I like that term. Thank you.
Regrettable.
Questionable. Regrettable. And for those who are genuine, who say, I own it, to then get tripped up years later,
Yes.
it really is an injustice.
It is. I think that being young and immature is pretty much like the biggest, reason why clients find themselves within the criminal justice system, and it's really because maybe they didn't have proper guidance, or they were like running with the wrong crowd, or as you said, they somehow got almost tricked into pleading guilty, and just because it would help them get probation rather than becoming in prison or incarcerated. And so I think that probably is like the biggest reason that a lot of our clients cite, that they were just kind of young and immature. So
Yep, and caught up in the moment, or maybe they had a well-intended judge who said, if you plead today, I won't give you any more jail time.
Right. Or
Correct.
probation.
Or probation.
Yes.
Correct.
But if you're pleading to things that cannot be erased and you have no idea, it can really do some damage. So I understand another reason that people, particularly in Detroit, that they may want to be, they may be motivated to seek an expungement is because they want to cross the Ambassador Bridge.
Oh yes, that's another collateral consequence.
Yes.
Is travel.
Yes. And so you're pretty much locked in to where you're living.
Oh yes. So I had one client who, he had retired. He was married with grandchildren, loving retirement life, and he wanted to travel. He was a senior pastor, and he did a lot of mission work, and he was hoping to go to like less fortunate countries and help and assist, and he was ineligible for a passport, and so travel is another big one.
Yeah. Is there anything on the list that we haven't covered that you can think of in terms of collateral consequences? Licensure?
Oh yes.
pops into
So
my mind.
those wanting to carry a concealed weapon, obviously that's another big one. If you have a felony, and I believe certain types of misdemeanors as well, it will make you ineligible to carry a concealed weapon.
Yes, and people who may want to enter a licensed profession. I'm thinking
sure.
of nurses, doctors.
Right,
and-
or even to advance. I think that we do have some clients who are able to find gainful employment, but I had one client where she had been with a company for several years, and so the conviction didn't exactly hold her back from actually getting into the company, but she had been made an offer. She had apply, interview, and was made an offer by this company where she was going to see a $15,000 a year increase in salary. But her felony conviction was holding her back. And so sometimes you may have the job, but you are hoping to advance within the company. And if you know that, depending on that type of position, that they do a certain type of either, credit check or criminal background check, then it may hinder you as well.
May I elaborate on that also?
Go for it.
For me, it was my notary. Again, as I say, I do a lot for veterans, trying to help them file their paperwork and have it submit to VA. And some of the paperwork has where it has to be notarized. And I didn't have my notary. So now I have to find a notary who can notarize this paperwork, but at the same time, we all have to be present. So that means the person who paperwork it is, myself, and the notary. And sometimes that becomes a problem, because trying to get all three people together at the same time on the same date that it has to be signed and notarized can be a problem. And thanks to Clean Slate, who cleared me, I was able to get my notary back. And it seems like something small, but it's really something big. And with the notary, I wasn't due to get it back till 10 years after my conviction was done.
Well, and what you're speaking about, I think is so critical, because you're talking about how it not only affected you, but others whom you wanted to empower and help.
That is correct.
And, that is also a collateral consequence. The family, in your instance, perhaps it wasn't necessarily tied to the paycheck. It was you helping someone who needed benefits. So there is a monetary connection of sorts.
Yes, it is.
But also for those individuals who their family is relying upon them
Yes.
to contribute financially.
Yes.
And to your point, Takara, about the woman who could not qualify for the $15,000 advancement, these criminal convictions can have lifelong implications, but for programs like Project Clean Slate, operated in the city of Detroit, and other programs around the state where communities are being their brother's keeper and helping them and elevating them and getting them back on their feet. We all win when someone is successful. So I want to, thank you again, both of you, Takara and Antoine, for sharing your stories.
And thank you.
And thank you to the City of Detroit for Project Clean Slate, to Detroit Mercy Law School and our students Amanda and Kelly, who did a phenomenal job. We have given you a lot of information today, and I encourage you to check out MichiganLegalHelp.org. Spell it all out, MichiganLegalHelp.org. And you can go there to find out more information, not only about expungements, but about a lot of legal problems that people encounter. We want to thank WHPS TV for allowing us this time, and thank you again to Aaron Salter and Innocence Maintained for underwriting our program today. Have a great day and be blessed.